Hello and welcome to this presentation. My name is Aline Frank. I'm a biologist and subject librarian for biology, and I'm part of the Research Support Services team for Medicine and Sciences at the University Library Bern. This coffee lecture is going to focus on effective scientific posters, and I'd like to provide some guiding questions and give you some tips for content and design. In academic communication, there's written communication and oral communication. So we all read and write journal articles, maybe also provide content for books. And on the other hand, we attend and give conference talks and lectures. So we know both of it in our academic life. And then when talking about scientific posters, we see that they're placed somewhat in the middle, in between written and oral communication. Scientific posters date back to 1969. At least that was the year when the first conference was documented having a poster session. And that was the 60th meeting of the Federation of European Biochemical Societies. Since then, researchers and students design and present posters frequently. So we are all familiar with this type of scientific communication. Nevertheless, posters are often given less attention and credits compared to published texts and slide presentations. Poster sessions can be ambivalent experiences. So as a presenter, on the left, we have a researcher, a student, or both. You may have invested a lot of time for preparing your poster, but only few people came and actually talked to you and read your poster. So it may be that after a poster session, you may feel a bit disappointed. On the other hand, as a poster viewer, as a conference attendee, it was probably difficult for you to read certain posters. Maybe you spent too much time on single posters, and so probably you didn't have time enough for also visiting other posters that were of interest to you. So it may well be that you felt overwhelmed or even disappointed at the end of a poster session. And that's a pity, I think, and that's something that should be improved. So poster sessions should become positive experiences. And I think when having in mind some, as I will talk about, some guiding questions, key principles that will help to improve posters quite easily. So the agenda for this lecture is as follows. I'd like to start with a few guiding ideas, guiding questions for your posters. Then we'll have a look at the content, and I believe we have to reduce it to the max. Then we'll have a few words about design. I'll show you 4 key principles that you can follow when designing your poster. And I'll have a few information about useful resources at the end. So what about guiding ideas? What to consider for poster design? At first, you write a poster. You write it as you write a text, but still posters are not papers. They are visual documents. So you must think graphically and not verbally. And yes, because of that, graphic design matters a lot. And it helps when you know a little bit about graphic design. And then posters are what you could call the academics' Wild West. There's not much regulation, not so many rules as in other disciplines within academia. So you do have a lot of freedom. And so, yeah, let's make use of this freedom. What drives good poster design? And now we're at guiding questions. So these 3 questions are key, I believe, to poster design, but they're key to communication in general. At first, your goal. What do you want to achieve with your poster? Then your message. What you want to communicate? And third, empathy. Think about your audience. What does your audience want and need? So having these 3 questions in mind helps a lot. Let's talk about your goal first. What do you need your poster for? What does your poster serve for? So I'm pretty sure that many of you use a poster to inform peers at a conference, to inform other researchers. Maybe also a poster is useful to inform stakeholders of a project, or you inform the public, or even policymakers. And there's huge differences between these target groups and between the aim of your poster, depending on these target groups. Or you want to win a poster competition specifically. or you just want to communicate efficiently and you don't care about the competition at all. And there is quite a difference in between having a poster as a starting point for discussions. So you want to have as many conversations as possible, or your poster just hanging on a wall and transporting its information on its own. And then there may be other goals depending on what you want to do with your poster. We go to your story and your message. So what do you want to communicate? And we all know how that works. We read books, novels, we watch movies, for example. So every good story, whether it's a murder mystery or a scientific discovery, starts with a problem and takes off on a journey to solve it. You may ask yourself on how to boil down your research to a simple and easy story you can tell someone within seconds at your poster. And this is a way you can do it. You can use the ABT structure to create a concise story with only very few words. So you use and, the word and, to combine two facts that set a scene. Then you add but to identify the problem that needs to be solved. And finally, therefore, identifies the solution to your problem. When doing that, it can be simple as this. So we know A and B, but we have no idea about C. Therefore, we conducted D. And now we have a very simple, concise story in 2 sentences and only very few words. So this is something you could do for your poster, and then you have your story. And your story brings you to your message, because your message is what we learned from the story. This is your message. Now for empathy and context, think about your audience. What does your audience need or expect from your poster? And I'm pretty sure, and you did experience that as well when attending a conference, that you would like to gather information from as many posters as possible. There's cool research out there. So many different things have been done, are in progress, so you really want to gather information. That also means you need to be able to read main takeaways from far. And your audience want to be able to quickly understand your poster. And if they're very much interested in your topic and your research, they would be happy to get access to further information online. And maybe there's more needs, other expectations to consider. So this is your audience and their expectations. And that brings us to content. And I said at the beginning, I believe we have to reduce to the very max for a poster. We have to focus. But why do we have to do so? So this is information results from conference presentation accessibility study, where participants of a conference were asked for recommendations on how to improve posters so that posters become better accessible. And what these people said is that they wanted to have less visual clutter on a poster. These were by far the most frequent answers, 71%. Then they suggested to have bigger text, bigger figures, to use plain language, maybe also add an audio summary, and also to have less text in general on a poster and more white space. And now think about having these points in practice or following these recommendations. That means to reduce content. So content is shaped by your goal. And when going back to your goal and you pick your goal, you know about your goal, then you can use it to shape your content. Because content follows purpose, meaning that your aim determines your poster's content. Then your content must support your story and message. So you can easily use your story and message as benchmarks for your content. Everything that supports story and message goes on the poster. Everything that doesn't just goes to the bin. So does the material support your message? Yes. Are the data relevant for it? Yes. Then you can put it on your poster. Only use material that supports your story and message. And also your audience expectations. We've already talked about expectations they may have. And here's another approach. There was a survey among 289 poster viewers in 2019. They were asked, how long do you want to spend talking to a presenter at a conference poster? And they clearly said they would like to spend no longer than 5 minutes at a single poster. So 65% said so. And that is a clear message for you as a poster designer, So please make it possible for your audience to read and understand your poster in no more than 5 minutes. Now, content can be seen as everything you put on your poster. And it also contains text. So we have to keep an eye on text. And here's some ideas on how to keep the text on your poster short. So you could get started with a separate document first, and you write down your text that you want to have on your poster, and you count your words. And I found one suggestion online, and it said, don't use more than 250 words in total. And that sounds very ambitious. But I suggest give it a try and see where it leads to, because the harsh reality is that if your poster is wordy, people will ignore it. Use a layout with lots of empty space. So at the beginning already, think about white space, empty space. So this can be an example with empty space, or this one, or we have another one here with lots of empty space. Then another idea is to use a takeaway as your poster's title. You need to have a title anyway. You need to transport your takeaway. So why don't you combine it and have your takeaway your main title? Then also for your methods, you can use an infographic instead of having plain text. That also helps a lot. It reduces text and it also helps your readers. Then be bold and go big. Make fonts and figures large. Everything should be well readable from 1 to 2 meters distance. As a suggestion, you can take these numbers. For example, you go up to 100 points for a title or 32 points for body text. And then finally, why don't you add a QR code for direct readers to more information online? I've seen that a lot on posters already, and I think it's useful because it takes away pressure from you. You don't think that you have to put so much information on your poster. You direct your readers just to another place where they get more information. Or let's say you started with a more wordy poster at first. You had one version that was far too much information. Then just save it, print it, and give it away to people who come to your poster. Or you bring a tablet with you and show some video content on it. So these ideas may help you reduce text. Now a few key principles of graphic design. And I know graphic design is a huge topic, and I'll be only able to touch it slightly with making 4 points here. But even if considering only these 4 points, I believe that they already help you make your design more effective. We'll start with proximity. Proximity means that you group related items together. So you create white space between these groups. So you have related items grouped together and some white space in between. Then alignment. Give every item some connection visually with something else on your poster. The recommendation is to use centered alignment with care, not by default, but for example, left alignment works very well in most cases. So we have aligned these elements here now to the left. Then repetition and consistency connected to it. So you repeat some aspects of the design throughout your poster. For example, take your colors, pick a few colors only and stick to them. Same for fonts, only apply 1, 2 fonts and not too many fonts at the same time. So you can choose an already consistent element and make it stronger, or you add something new, completely new to your poster and you play with it. So here I repeated the colors from what I already had above. And then finally, contrast. This is my favorite. It's absolutely necessary. So you use it to attract attention, create a visual hierarchy, and it helps your readers get the content better. So a few words about contrast. There's different ways you can produce contrast. For example, you can use color size, but also shape, texture, position. The important thing is that for contrast to be effective, it must be strong. And if 2 items are not exactly the same, then make them different, but really different. And now you see what contrast can be. So this is probably the most effective contrast we can have. It's something white on black background. So we see quickly that contrast makes us pay attention, and we see that something contrasting is important. Here you see something with less contrast, light gray font on a darker gray background. And now we see that similarity does not provoke attention. And how we perceive it is as these similar items are related and they are individually less important. But that's why we don't pay attention to a situation, to something like this. Now for white space, it actually enhances contrast. Empty space on your poster is much more than just blank paper. It's powerful and it's necessary. What you see on the right is a simple sentence placed somewhere in between other parts of text, and it's surrounded only by white space. And we quickly see that this is an important sentence. It sticks out, it jumps almost to our eyes, so we see it very well. Increasing white space between objects means that we have more contrast. It also enhances an objective significance, and we see that things are not related. So it also removes visual competition. And finally, it also adds some breathing room on a poster. And that's something important. Let your takeaway breathe in negative space. And that's also something nice to keep in mind for a poster. We can see it here in this billboard style layout. We see the effect of negative space and contrast. It makes use of both. We have white text on a dark green background, and the text is surrounded by negative space. And that means we can easily read and understand this single sentence or the two sentences that are written here. So the billboard style layout is actually a good thing to get started with when you look for a poster with lots of white space and contrast. As a summary, I have a few points here for you. Keep in mind your aim, your story, and your message. Think about your audience and design with empathy, because what your audience wants and needs is a key driver for your poster. Then reduce your content. It helps you and it helps your readers. And probably you will also enjoy yourself working with less text. Then apply strong contrast and lots of white space, and it will quickly improve your poster a lot. And if you do that, have fun and enjoy. As additional information, I added a few websites and ebooks that you can access at the University of Bern. I will add those links also in the description of the video online, so you can easily access these materials. And then I invite you to join our online support, always on Tuesdays, lunchtime, 12:30 to 1 o'clock. I'm online on Zoom, and I'm happy to get your questions on poster design. This is our poster design clinic, and it's open to the University of Bern. It has a focus on natural sciences, but feel free to join us if you have questions on poster design, regardless of your discipline. If you are interested in getting more information, courses, and support from the Research Support Services team, medical and science libraries at University Library of Bern, please go to this website and it will direct you to all this information. Thank you for your attendance.